Hello everyone. Today we are going to take apart this Charter Arms Pathfinder 22 LR. Before you are all the tools that I used in disassembling this firearm. And I will say, before we go any further, that if you do not need to take apart this weapon, don't do so. This was a real pain in the butt. Took me a couple of days to figure it all out and put it all back together. And quite honestly, the only reason why I am doing this is so that you all can have the same knowledge that I have, because there are no disassembly or reassemblies on a detailed level of how to take apart this revolver. I'm going to show you some things that I found out to help better your way, and I hope it works out for you all. So let's go ahead and get started. First and foremost, we are going to take apart the grip. Don't need to take out that screw. You can just go ahead and leave that in there. All right. Excuse me. So as you can see, there's sorted pins and screws. I want to go through them real quick. These two pins here hold the trigger frame into place with a pivot screw. Okay. This is your trigger pivot pin. Real pain in the butt to get in. Up here, this pin is for your adjustable sight. This pin retains your firing pin, and this screw is your hammer screw. Okay, so first off, we're going to remove the two grip pins and then the grip pivot pin. Some of my pins may come out easier than others because I had just gotten done cleaning this. And there are some that only go in a particular way, left to right or right to left. Okay. This forward trigger guard pin goes out from right to left, so it'll go back in from left to right. There's that pin. All right, so now you can release tension off the hammer, spring, and strut. Be careful of this piece here, what holds the hammer strut into place. It did fling out on me the first time and almost lost it. So removing the trigger guard pivot pin. Now, this gun was made in 1964, so it is pretty old, and some of you, if you don't know how to take care of this gun, or you bought it from a pawn shop or whatever have you, as you can see, pieces fling out because of this. This is your hammer strut and spring. Put those off to the side. But there's springs and plungers in here that will rust up, seize up. I had gotten this revolver from a customer because his double action wasn't working. Come to find out that the spring and plunger inside the hammer was rusted and seized all the way in, and trying to get that was a pain. So if you do manage to take this out, or you have a gunsmith do it, please make sure that they almost overly lubricate those plungers and springs. But there's your pivot pin. This is your frame and trigger guard. Put that off to the side. Next, we're going to remove our hammer. And this gun has very tight tolerances. So be mindful that if something doesn't go in, it's because it's not exactly in the right spot. There's your hammer screw. Put that off there. Hammer comes right out. So this paw here, all right, had zero spring tension to it. It was just floating. You can take it off by pin. Should be pretty easy. Push out. Okay, pin. There it is. Off to the side. Paw comes out. And then right in here is that plunger and spring. I'm just gonna leave it in here so I don't lose it and I know which one it goes to. And then we can put that off to the side. Next, we're going to remove the firing pin retaining pin. There's the pin for that. Firing pin's gonna stay in there for now. We'll take it out here momentarily. Next, we're going to remove the trigger pivot pin. There is a spiral spring in here that is under tension, and I will say that it is super difficult to put back in. So if you don't need to remove it, don't do so. But again, that's not what we do on this channel. So you're going to remove this pin from left to right, and it's going to go back in right to left. We'll hold the punch there. There's your pin. I don't know if you can see, all right, but it is tapered on this end. This pin could afford to be replaced because it is a little bent and whatnot, but it's still got some life in it. Hold the trigger into place because the hand and the transfer bar is connected to the trigger. Take out your punch and slowly remove the trigger. So there's your trigger. All right, you have your transfer bar right there, and then your hand. This is the spring that I'm telling you about, and there's a, I don't even know what kind of call this pin because it's not a roll pin, but it's a hollowed pin that sits right in there, so that way the trigger pivot pin can go through. But these just come right out, just like this. The hollow pin can get pushed out. Spring comes undone, and that's your trigger. It is probably a good idea that when you are taking apart difficult guns to categorize them as to how you remove parts. Don't just throw them into a pile and expect to know what's going to go in next. At least if I go from right to left or left to right, then I'm going to go backwards. I know what's going to go in next. This here holds your crane or yoke into place. Grab a screwdriver and take that out. There are washers in here. Be mindful of that and kind of remember where they go. Release the cylinder, and then the cylinder comes out like that. I'll show you how to take apart the cylinder here in a moment to show you. So there's a set screw on the left side. Also, inside this set screw hole, there's a tiny little ball bearing. There's a set screw, tiny little ball bearing in there. You don't need to remove this screw because this just adjusts the height. You can leave that in there. But you'll want to push this pin out. There it is. There's the ball bearing. Okay, do not lose that. Not that it's going to be detrimental to the mechanics of the gun, but it'll screw up your sight. Okay. Then you can take a small flat tip, push up against the pin inside here as best you can. Otherwise, push it with a punch. And if you come up with it, all right, you can get the sight out. There is a spring underneath here. Okay. Little spring there. All right. I'm going to leave it into place so I know what it's for. And then this little pin here, which holds tension to the sight, has a tiny little spring, right, and a little plunger type pin. Okay. I'm going to put these together so I don't lose them. I'll leave it right there. Okay, so that's the sight right there. Now that your sight is off, you can go ahead and take out your firing pin. This one was kind of detrimental. Well, not detrimental, but annoying. I had to push it out through the firing pin hole. There is a spiral cone-shaped spring that sits in there. Pound it in from one end, switch to the other. There we go. Here's your firing pin and spring. Okay, simple and easy. I swear I cleaned this. And then last bit for the frame is your cylinder latch. I'm going to talk about this as I take it apart because this was another pain in the butt part here. This here is a plunger and spring. Okay, you have an oval size washer, and then you have a circular size washer underneath the latch. All right, so pay close attention as I take this apart. Be careful not to lose the plunger and spring. This thing has shot across my desk more times than I'd like to admit. All right, there's the screw. Here's the plunger. Here's the spring. Okay. Oh. This here is the circular or the oval shape washer. It goes in this way, all right, not the other way. You will not be able to get it in properly. It will not function properly if you put it in the opposite way, okay? And then here's that circular washer. spring over here so I don't lose it. Now to get this out, you can kind of see in there. All right. So there's a bar that gets put across there. All right. You can adjust the post in here through this side. All right. You can kind of see it. There's a flat head shape in there. Don't mess with it. If you don't need to, don't mess with it. Don't need to take it off. But best way to remove this is you spin the latch, or you remove the latch to the rear. Sorry, pull the latch to the rear and just kind of finagle it upward. And then it comes right out, just like that. Okay. And that is the frame right there. The last part we're going to take apart is the cylinder and ejection rod. I will say that it is a clever design, but a very, what's the word for it? Excruciating design to have to take it all apart. We're gonna dry this area, okay? Wrap it in some sort of a cloth or masking tape, and with a set of pliers, you're gonna hold that part there, okay? Tight, not too tight, and then unscrew this front one. We're gonna see if this is easier, because the way I had to do it, I wanted to pull out what little hair I had left. Yoke comes out. As you can see, there is a hole right here. Okay. If I pull it back, you can see a pin, and you have to push the pin out. Now, there is a plunger that sits right over the extractor bar. Okay, you can probably see a little silver ring around here. All right, with a serious spring under tension, you have to push the pin out, and it has to be exact. Now, before I do it, notice this hole, and then notice that one. This one seems a little tighter, right, or unforgiving to put in than this hole here, right? Seems a little bit more open. Highly recommend reinserting the pin through this end. So let's see if I can redo this. All right, so got that tiny little pin out. Hold the spring tension there with your punch. I'm gonna put this pin back here. All right, and as soon as you remove that punch, everything's gonna shoot out this way. So put your hand over it and remove your punch, catching everything. There's your ejection rod, and there's a washer on there too. Okay. Actually, we're gonna go right here. Here's your yoke spring. There's that little plunger I was telling you about. And then here's that long spring there. And then the ejector can come out. You may have to give it a little help. There it goes. There. And that is how you take apart the cylinder. let's just hope it goes back together just as easy as it came apart. Okay, let's go ahead and put this thing back together. Let's get that little pin ready to go. Tweezers helps a lot. So get a good pair of tweezers. And so we'll put the ejector back in. Extractor and ejector. Now, it's not a full circle. It can only go in one way. Find that spot, push it in, okay? You're gonna put your spring in. And then you're gonna put in your rod. All right, so this is the hard part here, all right? Because not only do you have to line up the hole, but you have to hold spring tension down in here and everything. It's just a real pain in the butt. So try to watch me. I hope my hands don't get too much in the way and you're able to see it all. And let's just hope it goes in easy. Okay. You'll need to put the washer back on. And with this spring, look at the two ends. This end here is going to go in first. Okay. We're going to preset. Shit. All right. So we're gonna try with a flat tip. We're gonna preseat our pin. Can't do this left-handed. All right. So, all right, we have the pin seated. Take your little punch. I'm not sure if you can see in there. All right, but you can see the pin protruding a little bit more than we wanted to. Hopefully, maybe. So look in there, and with this thin little punch, just push up on that pin a little bit so your ejector bar can clear. All right, it still holds in place. Okay, so now I'm going to get the ejector in, find the hole in your rod. And this is where you have to play the guessing game. You may have to readjust, and you gotta kind of like visualize where, see, the hole is turned a little bit. So try and keep the hole, the hole in line. There we go. All right, so as you push the pin all the way in and it fully protrudes, keep tapping on it as you slowly release to try to find that hole. And there you go. And that's how you put that all back together. Ugh, I hate this. Next, you're going to take this cover or shield, whatever it's called. Sorry, I'm a little brain dead right now. Take your ejector rod screw, screw it all back in. Make sure it's well lubricated. You don't want this part to seize up. And just go until you can't screw it in anymore. Oh, actually, you have to take it apart again because you got to put your yoke back on, or your crane. I don't know why some revolvers call it a yoke and some call it a crane. If you happen to know that answer, I'd really like to know. All right, put the sleeve back on, spring. All right, there you go. All right, so we can put that back off to the side. Now back to our frame. Okay, putting our frame back together, remember, okay, you had a sequence of all your parts, so we're gonna work from right to left, putting in the cylinder latch. All right, you're going to have this upright like this, feed it into the hole, okay, and then the post, you're just gonna finagle it in there, and that's it, okay? The circular washer, go ahead and slide that in. And this is where the tricky part happens. First, you want to get the plunger and spring. You want to install those first. Okay. Once they're in, you're going to grab this oval washer. It's going to go in just like this. Yours may look a little better than mine. I had to file some grooves in there because I found it getting stuck in between the plunger and the bottom part of this latch. FYI, if you don't screw this in just right, all right, the screw will force it into place and you will screw up that washer. So if you need to, just put it on something wood, find yourself a flat brass hammer like this, just get a couple of whacks, try and flatten it out a little bit. You're gonna wanna lube it. And you're going to put this right underneath the plunger. Okay, but you're going to push it out as far as you can, and you will see in a minute. Now, another good reason to have the squeezers on this is for this part. You can squeeze between here to completely compress that spring so you can get that screw into place. All right, if you just try to do it with a thin little screwdriver like this, right, it's just too thick and you may not be able to do it. Some people can. I recently just found out that my fingers are too fat to be a gunsmith, but here we are. And again, do not lose this plunger or spring. All right. So I have completely compressed it. And if I lose this plunger and spring, I'm gonna cry. When screwing in the screw, go slow to make sure you don't bind up that oval washer. If it doesn't go in easy, back it out and reseat the washer. If you're able to start it with your fingers, might be a good idea. But it looks like there's something keeping that from doing so. There we go. Got it started. Just back it up and reinsert it as you go, as you need to. All right, if it goes in smoothly, and you're golden, pony boy. Release the plunger, and there you go. And that's what it should look like. Okay. I understand that there's some that sticks out here. Trust me, this is how you want it. Okay? Because it's gonna look like that. All right. So that's done. Thank God that went in easy. Time for our firing pin. Don't forget the spring. Now I don't remember which way the spring went, but I went small end first. Actually, I put the spring in first. I am so glad I bought these tweezers. So these tweezers you can get on Amazon, and I think they're like $15. And you get a whole, let me show you these things. You get a whole set like this. All right. Well worth the money if this is something that you're getting into, or even for electronics too. Works for electronics. All right. Enough talking. Burp. May have to put it in to the side. All right, and there you go. Hopefully you can see that. All right, now there's a little, I don't know if it's because this one is old or whatnot, but it seems to be an uneven circle in here. So if it doesn't go in right away, don't freak out. Just do your best. Stick it in there. And just force it on in. There you go. Okay. Go ahead and put in our firing pin. For this one, you may have to push in the pin to get it in, or at least start it first. And there you go. All right. Firing pin's good. Now let's do our sights. Grab that plunger and spring. Okay, remember that little guy there? All right. Put it in through the left, okay? And then I'll show you how to put in the sight. There's an easy way to do it. All right, push it in as far as you can. What you're gonna do is you're gonna slide it in this way, all right, to wedge it, and then you're gonna spin it. Actually, maybe I could do it without doing that. Let's try. And there we go. All right, now be mindful of this spring here, but get it up as much as you can. Okay, compress that pin in there. All right. Now, you gotta be careful because right in here, the sight will get stuck inside that groove. So you gotta lift it up a little bit without losing tension on that spring. There we go. It's probably a little hard for you to see. Saved it. Sweet. Good. Now we're in place. Okay. That ball bearing, you're gonna drop that ball bearing in first, and then you're gonna put in this set screw. See, just missed it. There we go. Went right in. Put in the set screw. There's nothing worse than losing a piece as small as a little ball bearing like that. And you get it into place. And center it as best you can. You can finagle it later when you take it to the range. Okay. All right, now we're gonna put the cylinder back on. Okay. So get your crane or yoke screw. You're gonna want to lubricate this here a little bit, and inside the threads. You don't want to have that seize up on you. There's a decent amount of rust that was on this gun, and made it really difficult to take everything apart. But it's a good learning lesson, you know, good experience. I'm glad I got to do it. It was just a pain in the butt. Make sure your cylinder or your yoke is pushed all the way in, okay? Because your cylinder will get stopped by this part here. All right, you can let it sit there. Find the spot. Start the screw. Okay. Goes in. See how much it stuck out? So much. Okay, that's a good thing. That's what you want. All right. Oh, there was one other piece that I forgot to take off. I'm not going to do it, but I'll show you from here. So this is your timing rod. Okay. There is a fixed pin on the inside, and then this here is a plunger and spring. All right. Your best way to do it, to remove it, is let go of the cylinder, push down on here as much as you can, and kind of just finagle it out. But be careful, because of that plunger and spring, it will shoot out at you. All right. If you don't need to remove that, don't remove it. Okay. However, if it's seized up, rusted, or you just want to clean it, by all means, have at it. All right. So, cylinder's back in. Now we can start working on the trigger. Trigger was pretty annoying because when you put the spring in, all right, you can kind of see the spring here. I'll try to put it upright for you so you can't really see. This hook end goes to the back. Okay. Now, I highly recommend filing an angle on this bottom area here, because it goes up against a flat part, and with the sharp edges after being cut, it could dig into the metal and will keep you from installing this trigger. All right. And then the hollowed out pin is right here. If this gun is brand new, you may not have any issues. With mine though, I had to find which end went in easy. I think it was that one there. Uh-oh, I just lost it. Because, like I said, these are very tight fits. All right, so we're gonna go with this side here. All right, this one went in easier. But once you get it in, you can pound it in, then you're good, okay? But if yours is pretty used and this pivot pin is pretty beat up, all right, you may want to, sand this area down a little bit, maybe take a circular or a rod file in there and just kind of spin it up, kind of make a little bevel in there to help, because as you try to insert this, it's all under spring tension and very difficult to put in. You also have your hand. It's going to go in on the left side. Don't worry about the flat parts right now, okay? Because ultimately, this flat part is held on by the, I guess, the left part of the spring, okay? And then on the on the transfer bar, this flat part's here, all right, it's held on by the hook end on the right side. But you don't need to deal with that until you get ready to install. Those are in there. You're going to push the pin in from right to left. This part gets tricky. I may not be able to show you how to properly do it, but I'm going to demonstrate before doing it. So if I have to edit this video, because it's going to take forever for me to do, you're going to know how to do it. All right. So this end here of the spring, all right, keep note of that, because that end is going up against this wall. All right, so you have to envision my punch as the spring. All right, you have to put it in like this, so when you push the trigger down, it gets cocked, and now everything is under spring tension, all right, which then you can line up your holes, put your pins in. Okay, so once you put the hand and the transfer pin or transfer bar in, they're not going to pop out, so you can release them. But if you can kind of see that pin there, or the spring there, all right, find the notch, and essentially doing something like that, okay? But don't go too far. All right, so I got it in. Now I'm going from right to left. I probably should have pre-fed this through, but once you it's very, very tight. Ooh, that was so much easier than the first time I did this. If you're able to get it your first time, God bless you. Otherwise, you're in for a ride. Find a decent punch that's over the sides of the pin. Okay. And we are in. Okay. Transfer bar goes into place. Hand goes underneath your cylinder latch. Okay, so that's proper operation right there. We're good. Thank God. All right, thank you, Jesus. Now let's put our hammer together. Grab your paw. All right. You can probably see markings already, but if not, I'm gonna go up against that plunger and spring. Push against the plunger, and the pin should just go right in. And there you go. Okay, and now you have spring tension. So we're good. With installing the hammer, okay, your trigger sear notch has to go in between here, okay, because double action will push up against the paw, okay, and the single action will cock the trigger. All right, if you don't already understand how revolvers work. But make sure that it goes right in the middle. Once it does, then you can find your holes. This here is your hammer pivot pin. Get into place. Okay, and what you do, screw it all in. Again, make sure all of these the threads are lubricated, because this is an old gun. You don't want them rusting up. All right, now let's go ahead and put together our frame and trigger guard. First, you want to put in the pivot pin, okay? But when installing this, make sure you clear the trigger first. Don't put it in like this, because you won't be able to clear the trigger. Put in the pivot pin. Okay, flip it the other way. Now with the hammer strut and spring, put the spring on the hammer strut, push down on the spring and punch through it. Okay, so it can hold spring tension. All right, and then you're going to find the dimple end inside of your hammer, and that's where that ball joint's gonna go. All right, so I'm in there now. You may want to put this little piece on there first. Slide it on there. All right, don't release just yet. Close the trigger guard and slowly take your punch out. Just make sure that shim is in its grooves. You will see on the frame, okay, so it can catch. There you go. Okay. Get your pin. Flatten her out. Grab your last punch. She should just be able to go right in, which is fine because when you put the grips on, they're not going to go anywhere. Okay. Well, that's not good.
"2,000 years later."
So to continue on with this video, this gun had an oopsie in the middle of reinstalling all the parts. I did initially get the double action to work prior to making this video, and then at the end of it, it decided not to. And it's been racking my brain, couldn't figure it out, but now I got it going for 6 consecutive rounds, and it's because of these 2 parts here. Learned a lot about wheel guns. If you don't know anything about wheel guns and its timing and whatnot, highly suggest you looking it up. I think one day I'm actually going to do a video about timing, because this little piece here is your cylinder stop, and your trigger goes into your cylinder stop, and it kind of sits like this, right? And if this little area, this here, is worn down too much, or like this trigger, that area is worn down too much, it will release your cylinder stop too early and not allowing your hand inside the firearm to push the cylinder to the next chamber to fire the round. Baffled my mind, couldn't figure it out, thought it was something with the cylinder, thought it was something with the cylinder notches or the hand. Then after kind of taking it all apart and slowly looking through the small little light gaps that are here, I noticed that the cylinder stop, as I was slowly pulling the trigger, was releasing too early for the hand to cycle the cylinder around. So if you all ever have cycling issues or double action issues, try to put your gun up to the light, right, and slowly pull the trigger and watch the cylinder stop and the hand move simultaneously, okay? They should move in junction with another. If they do not, then one of those 2 areas is bad, okay? So I might suggest first starting with the cylinder stop and the trigger, and if that doesn't fix the issue, then look into the hand and its notches and the cylinder. But now we are done. This gun is operational in both single action and double action. I hope you all learned something from this video. I know I did, and there will be more to come. So, God bless you all. Hope you all have a great day. Have a blessed day. I love you all, and continue to love each other. Y'all have a great day.